Hi again, it's Josh. I wanted to look at another position from the Endgame simulator, and that's the sort of basic triangulation position. This position is meant to sort of show the basics of king triangulation. So I'm going to give a quick overview of what that entails, and also look at how to solve it in chess-based, and then we're going to play it out in the simulator. So the important thing to remember is that from this position, there are two ways to win. One is sort of the brute force method that doesn't really illustrate what I want to talk about, which is that it starts with d6. It's sort of an inefficient method that sort of potentially leads to some draws, because the important thing is that if black should try to keep the opposition. The point being that, if white takes this position is a draw. The idea being that black cleverly keeps the opposition, and now there's nothing we can really do, because if we play this, there's no way we can move without leading to a draw. So d6 check does win because we avoid that scenario here, and we play d7, the king comes here. We have to be careful about stalemate, and we can sort of reposition our king all the way around to here and eventually force it away and win the pawn and win. But that's kind of ugly, and it doesn't really illustrate the main idea we want to look at. So think about this position as teaching us about triangulation. Triangulation is the idea where in a king and pawn ending, you have a position like this, only you want to have the exact same position with the other person to move. So what we're going to do is sort of move our king in a triangle to recreate this position. This is an interesting thing about the geometry of the board. Recreate this exact position, only black. It's going to be black's move. So maybe to sort of practice learning the basics of sort of king triangulation, opposition in the end game, think about it as you can solve this problem by moving just your king at the beginning until we win this pawn. We're only going to move the king, and we're going to win this pawn. So the triangle starts first by stepping backwards. So the idea is that we give up a little bit of ground, but keep in mind that because we can always break through with these pawns, black can never really come too far away. So, for example, if black tries to be aggressive with the king, a move like this is just going to win. If he takes it, we push and win. If he tries to catch it, we take here, and he can't stop the pawn. So, king e4 in some sense is predicated on the fact that black can't move too far away from these pawns. So instead, what black's going to do is play, so for example, again, king f6, like I said, king e4, king f6, d6 is going to win. So king e4, I think pretty much the only move that's not going to avoid that problem, again, anything with the f file, d6 is going to win, is either king e8 or king d8. Doesn't really matter which. Let's just say e8. Now the important thing is we don't come back right away, right? Because then he just comes here and look, we have the exact same position. The idea about triangulation is we've stepped back to e4, he stepped back, now we're going to come up here, king f5, and the point is that if he comes too far away, again, we have this breakthrough. So, say he comes to f7, again, we win with d6, and he can't stop the pawn. If he takes it, c7 wins. If he plays king e8, taking here wins. So, again, when we play king f5, he can't oppose us on the f-file. In a sense, the only moves he can really play are to d8, and that's going to work out the same as in the solution, or back up to e7. Now what you notice when he comes to e7 is we come to e5. And look, our king has moved e4, f5, back to e5. And our king has made a triangle, but the important thing is that when we come to e5, look, we have the exact same position we started with, only it's black's move. And now black is going to have to give ground, and we're going to break through and win the game. So first it's important to look at if the king comes somewhere like f8 or f7, again, the f-file d6 is a winning breakthrough. So he can't come to the f-file, so he's got to either step backwards or go to d8. If he steps backwards, I think the most instructive, there are a couple of ways to win. Some of them are a little bit awkward, but I think the instructive way to win is to keep the opposition. King e6. Again, if the king comes over the f-file, we break through or just win the pawn. d8. King f7, again, now we're just forcing the king away. We're just going to chase him. Oops. King e8, only move king b8, king d8, and now we're winning the pawn. So again, when we came to e5, if he comes to e8, we force the opposition, force him to give ground, and then we slowly sort of chase him away and pick up this pawn. So if he wants to avoid that, he can try d8. The idea being that if we come to e6, he can get the opposition again, and now, in some sense, we can still win, because we can sort of do this thing where we can reposition, and he can't join us in the F-file because of the breakthrough, but it's not as elegant. So the point is that if he comes to D8, let's not play King D8. We're not going to play E6 right away. I don't want to give him the opposition. Let's just play King F6. And now if he comes to E8, look, we seize the opposition, and then we chase the king and win it. So pretty much the central idea is thinking about how we can use a repositioning of the king to achieve an identical position we started with, only the other person to move. So we play E4, he comes back, F5, remember he can't oppose us on the F-file, he comes D7, E5, we have the opposition, and now he loses, because we slowly invade with our king, and we're going to win. So, pretty straightforward position. The idea is that we move our king in a triangle, sort of exploiting the fact that the king can't go too far away from these pawns. And so that's the basics of triangulation. Let's look at it in this sort of endgame simulator. So here's the endgame simulator. It's white to move. So we're going to start the triangulation. Again, this is as anticipated. We're going to come here. And remember, he can't come. If he comes to the F-file, we break through. So he has to come back. And look, we've triangulated. We have the position. So he's going to come here. And now we're going to come to F6. And if he comes to E8, we get the opposition again. And now, look, he's got to come here. And now, look, our king is successfully invading. Well, it doesn't matter which one we go to. We win the pawn. Sorry, we take his pawn. And now we're just going to promote and win the game. So pretty straightforward. Just remember this sort of nice little, you move your king in a triangle, and we get the exact same position with the other person to move. Black has to give ground, and we win.